It is different. We have to show up differently. It is what it is. And maybe our kids will see that change, but right now you just have to be aware of the environment that you're in and move accordingly.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Culture Chats. I'm Camealia Xavier-Chihota, marketing and social media here at the Digital Voice. And for Black History Month, I wanted to help spotlight some of the underrepresented voices across the industry. So, yes, we're Black throughout the year and we do have these conversations regularly, but I wanted to make sure that we were speaking about this in this moment. And I have here with me our next guest, Annabelle from Jellyfish. Please, could you introduce yourself, Annabelle?
Thanks for the intro, Camelia. So my name's Annabelle. I'm the Chief People Officer at Jellyfish. I've been there for a couple of months now and settled, loving it. Got a challenge ahead of me, but really excited.
It's lovely to have you join our culture chats. And I know that we've been just having great conversations about our heritage and about, being Caribbean cocktails, Caribbean queens, carnival queens. But I want to take it back. So, being in the industry, and that is people and talent management, for how long have you been in the industry now?
About 17 years. So I studied law at university and I had these grand ideas of being a barrister. And then I kind of fell out of love with it. But I always knew that I wanted to do something that was advocating for people. And, I've worked in some fantastic HR teams and some not so fantastic HR teams. So I've seen both sides of it. And I do know that HR has a stigma and a rep around it. That's why I prefer people. Um, and so I've always strived to be in roles where I can really drive and advocate change and bring that D&I lens as well. So this conversation is fantastic for me. So thank you for having me.
No, thank you for joining me. So let's start then. You said you wanted to be a barrister. Where did that motivation and that level of ambition come from, and how's it evolved as your career path has evolved?
I mean, really honestly, my parents are like, you've got to go to university and you've got to either be a lawyer, a doctor, or something in some kind of professional setting. And so I studied law and it was interesting. Like I've always loved to read, I've always been interested about kind of law in general. And obviously I use that in my day to day at work anyway. But I fell out of love with it, unfortunately. And I thought, okay, I need to do something else. And when I speak to most people in HR, most people kind of either fall into HR, they don't necessarily deliberately take that step. That's just my experience anyway. And I did fall into it. I worked for a mental health and learning disabilities charity in Greenwich, and I was the HR administrator there. And I was like, oh, this seems interesting. And I jumped straight in the deep end with a very technical term called CHUPI, which is when you kind of acquire new businesses. And I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I could read contracts, interpret what they said, understood how, HR's there to strike a balance between protecting the business, but also, making sure that you're representing the employees' points of view and doing things compliantly and fairly, people first, having culture and stuff like that.
That sounds really interesting, but who, other than your parents, would you say really instilled that level of ambition to achieve that drive, to make that change that you seem to have sort of championed throughout your career?
The person that has really done that for me more recently is Amina Falarin. She's the UK CEO now of Oliver Marketing Agency, which is part of the Brand Tech Group.
Yeah, love Amina.
I remember when she first interviewed me, it's about 7 years ago now. And one of my first conversations she gave me some really direct feedback. And it wouldn't have happened anywhere else in my career because she was another Black female. She understood, whilst it's different, she understood some of the challenges that I would be facing and what I would need to do to hold my own, but also make sure I was representing myself in the best possible way because the space is different for Black females.
Tell me, tell us.
It is different. We have to show up differently. It is what it is. And maybe our kids will see that change, but right now you just have to be aware of the environment that you're in and move accordingly. So for me, she always strove for excellence. It was non-negotiable. So for me, that has really driven that ambition for me.
I like that you said excellence rather than perfection, because obviously we see there's no such thing. But I think it is definitely something that I'm seeing as a theme across the board as I'm having these chats with different people, that looking to be the best, do your best, put your best foot forward, strive for excellence seems to be a running theme. And I don't know if it's anything to do with your culture, your race, and your background. Do you think there's any particular perspectives or approaches that you've brought to the workplace that have solely been down to the fact that you're a Black woman?
Definitely. I think there's a sense of pride being a Black woman as well. You know, my dad was born in Trinidad, my mum's family are from Jamaica. And if you've been to either island, they're very proud,
Proud people.
proud people. Yeah, I don't know any person from Trinidad or Jamaica who isn't a proud person. Even just the way we like to step out in a party or a dance, it's very grandiose. So I think
You only have to go to Notting Hill Carnival to see that, right?
literally.
It's they're peacocking everywhere.
So I think that bringing that to work, I don't ever want to be mediocre in anything I do, from, how I show up at work, how I present myself, the type of work that I want to present. I'm always thinking about how I could do things better. Um, and I strive for that in my teams as well. So I think having that background, both my parents, my mum's mum and dad, they came over, they wanted a better life for their kids. My dad came over, wanted a better life for himself and his family. So it's always about better, doing more, doing things differently. And if you can do things better and differently than the day before, then you're already ahead of the game, in my perspective, anyway.
I love that. If you can do things better and differently, then you're ahead of the game. With that, you've led really nicely on to my next and my final question, which is about a single piece of advice that you could impart on the next generation. Like, tell us, what would it be to help them step into their power, their pride, which are obviously the themes for this year's Black History Month?
Being humble and knowing yourself is really important. You can't add value if you're not aware of the space that you hold in society or whatever environment that you're in. And I think you have to be humble if you know that you have that superpower that maybe doesn't exist elsewhere in the room. You don't have to brag about it. It will shine naturally. But I think knowing yourself, knowing what your gaps are, knowing what your strengths are, and playing into some of those things, and actively seeking out how other people experience you, I think is really important, because it allows you to be better. If you don't know what your starting point is, you cannot be better. It's not possible. So for me, I do strive to do that. And again, not perfect, but better.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. And I hope that there's a few nuggets in there that people will take on, pass on, and find value. So thank you, Annabelle.
Take care. Bye.
So thank you for tuning in to another episode of Culture Chats. We'll be back with another brilliant Black leader. We look forward to seeing you soon.